Everybody, welcome back. We're on a little bit of a roll here in Isaac. 19 wins in a row. Not thinking about the 20, just thinking about the plus. Okay, honestly, could have been worse. We start with technology because we had Eden's Blessing on our last run, PMJ6TVX0. This is a very encouraging start, honestly, and I do like playing as Apollyon. Ooh, I gotta stop underestimating the jump range of the burning jumpers. I don't know their real name. Possessed pajamas? What would you call them? Look, half the stuff that I named in this game, which are not the canonical names, is just the first thing that came to the top of my head when I was like, 23 years old. It's been a long time. I'm not even, the same person. I've replaced every cell of my body since then. It's a Ship of Theseus sort of thing. We don't really have to get into it, but I'm unqualified to talk about that stuff. I only took philosophy in 11th grade. Your safety is not guaranteed. Help? So technology is good. We sucked up blank card. You're not gonna see me do that too much. Blank card is good enough that I will use probably my only void charge on the entire floor just to make sure that we keep it. Is that now I know, worst case scenario, if we get a good card, we can blank card our way to, I wouldn't say safety necessarily. Excuse me, sir, you do 1 full heart of damage? That's new. Well, it's news. Whether or not it's new. Okay. Convenient timing. It did not have to be this spooky, but here we are. I'm scared. I should not have been hit twice on that room. That's kind of the gimme there. So how do you play this one? I think exactly the way we're doing it right now. Even go so far as to peep this. We have a 3-cent heart. I didn't think we would get a cheesable situation here. I was hoping we would. We just need 1 penny. That's probably the last fire, yeah. So we're gonna have to do 1 more room. And I'm just taking deep breaths. And I'm not panicking. But it is clear, 1 bad room can throw you for a freaking loop. So take a deep breath. I took a deep breath and walked right into the enemy that killed us. For FTL Watha. So I'm not gonna mess with you. That's pretty devastating. I mean, that's a really, really, really good start. Where, who would have thought tiny room famine is what caused all that trouble for me. That's disappointing. And I can't stress enough. Very demoralizing for me personally, because, I was like, Isaac's going so well, I'll record 1 more extra episode today. I don't think there's a lesson to be learned there, and by the way, you might be like, well, that'll teach you. I think on these rooms, you just suck it up. Too many dangerous question marks. You shouldn't play when you're tired, or blah, blah, or blah. Okay. But, okay, don't play when you're tired, but also ride the hot hand, for every idiom, you can find an idiom that is, the exact opposite, yet it is also echoed by successful people for whom it has had the kismet to work for. It's just unfortunate, is what it is. To be like, yeah, I can't wait to play 1 more Isaac episode today, and then within, a minute, just crap it up. But it happens. I'm not going to let it diminish my enjoyment. BOGO bombs? It's okay. hive mind, it's okay. And we actually used credit card properly, which has not always been my strong suit, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. In the end, I'm sort of, without making it seem like I don't care about the results, I'm sort of unconcerned about, you know, like an Isaac streak. To as much of an extent as I've been concerned about it in the past, just because of the fact that, like, I'm very careful with the way I word this, okay? We're sort of just waiting for the DLC to come out. We're in this extended period right now, where, you know, like, when you were in elementary school, you know, once, like, so elementary school in Canada usually went until, like, the 3rd or the 4th week of June, at least in Ontario, but, once you got to, like, you know, the 2nd week of June, you were like, we're not doing anything. They're not gonna have anything important for us right now. In high school, you have exams, but, you know, in elementary school, you know, that's when the purpose of elementary school is laid bare for you, and you realize, yeah, they're teaching you necessary precursor life skills, but simultaneous to that, they're also state-subsidized daycare. That's kind of where we're at right now. Okay, these are some lazy dodges. That's kind of where we're at right now, except instead of being, you know, a couple of weeks at the end of the school year, it's been, you know, like a year of waiting for the DLC. And we still don't know when the final day of school is, but that's okay. It's okay. We'll get there at some point together. Oh, and we'll have new content and juicy items, and ooh, it'll be what a thrill. And the sun, and the tree frog. I remember. Never played Snake Eater, but I've heard the song many times. Excuse me, that was a got him situation. He should be gotten. Very interesting that your head remained functional after your body died. What is this, a Futurama sort of situation? I don't understand. What are we expected to be led to believe? This is some sort of Futurama-based situation? Anyway, I'm over it. It just cut me some slack. It takes a minute to get over it. Don't cut me some slack for the loss. That's up to you. But cut me some slack for the belly aching after the loss. Let's go back to our item room and focus on having a fun time here. This is a good run. I mean, it's no blank cards sucked up on the first item room. My only post-mortem is, man oh man, if I had just not gotten hit with the collision, we're taking some terrible damage here. The collision from famine really did me in. We still should not have died after that, but I think I got a little shell-shocked from realizing that it was one full heart, and then I was like, oh my god, at any given moment we could get hit again, and then you get the idea. My confidence was popped in like a single instant. I'd rather have a speed upgrade than Rainbow Baby. Okay, it's very simple, brain. We kill the Batman. It's very simple, brain. Don't be a fool. Don't give up any more HP than is necessary. And don't let one bad run, and it was bad, spiral into unacceptable situations. You know what I mean? Just stay steady, stay frosty, take a deep breath, and remember, you were winning a staggering amount of runs in advance of this. Now, you're not starting off too strong here. You're making some misplays, but that's okay. We got room to grow. I got rhymes in my mind embedded like an embryo or a tumor, but here's the rumor. Dre's in your neighborhood, and he's up to no good. That's Express Yourself by NWA. I still don't understand Express Yourself by NWA. And I say this as somebody that this is not a joke. I had a Straight Outta Compton poster on my wall in university. Why? Well, because I like Straight Outta Compton, and then, you know, I mean, I don't like it. I love it. I think it's one of the landmark hip-hop albums, you know. Stop me if you've heard that one before. But, you know, some friends of mine were like, ha ha ha. That seems weird that, you know, this white kid from suburban Ontario would like Straight Outta Compton. So they bought me the Straight Outta Compton poster. And we're like, what now? And I was like, now I put it on my wall, because I think it's a really good album. But I still don't understand tonally, Express Yourself. Because, you know, they spend like the first, you know, I don't know, 7 or 8 songs on the album. You know, F the police coming right out the underground. Straight Outta Compton, crazy mother effer named Ice Cube. Etc., etc. I'm being very careful with my verbiage here, obviously, for reasons that I'm sure make sense. The YouTube language filter, of course. But then in Express Yourself, they very specifically, they almost become like a Christian rap group temporarily, you know? You know, I don't smoke weed or cess, cause it's gonna give a brother brain damage. Brain damage on the mic don't manage nothing. Thank you. The whole album up to this point is imbued with a certain sense of destructive recklessness that is like, hey, if the world's gonna beat us down, we're gonna take the world with us, right? And then Express Yourself is like, you know, that Griffin McElroy Vine. I'm James, that's my name. Next up, it's my friend Master Killa. I'm gonna tell you we got a genuine thriller. I forget the lyrics, but you know, it's a deep cut reference for me. I'm doing my best. Okay. The run is great. My brain is bad. Now give it up for my best friend Brad. I'm Brad. Okay, see, I told you I remember some of it. But I think that it might. I haven't seen the movie Straight Outta Compton, by the way, which I probably, you know, should, given that I like the album and the origin story, up to and including No Vaseline. But I wonder if they touch on Express Yourself. It's always been one of the 2 strangest songs on the album for me. The other one is Something to Dance To, which is like a straight up like late 80s literal like a track you might hear in like, you know, a dance club or something like that. Do people still call them that? Anyway. There's the 2 ways I see it. One of them is they're making fun of hokey rappers who are like, I don't have to swear to sell records. The other one is that they were like, guys, this record's pretty, like, we say some controversial stuff. What if we put on like one commercial-friendly song that maybe could get radio play? And they were all like, that seems like a good idea, Dr. Dre. Which, fair enough. I mean, Express Yourself is a good song. It had an enduring legacy as one of the tracks on the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 soundtrack, of course. We have fun here. Yo! I mean, it's not an amazing get, specifically because of the fact that we just got a damage multiplier, but it's still 1 damage, still pretty good. A lot of albums have songs like that. Like, I'm not gonna make any friends with what I'm about to say. My favorite Radiohead album is probably In Rainbows. Sorry, it took me a second. But my second favorite is definitely OK Computer. But I'm here to tell you, you don't appreciate the masterwork that is the weaving of the tracks into one another in the central themes. Look, don't at me. I just think it would be a better album if it didn't have Fitter, Happier on it. Fitter, happier, more productive. Everything else, I mean, Paranoid Android, Subterranean, Homesick, Alien, you know, exit music for a film. It's got some unbelievable strength on that album. But then you're always, you know, for a minute there, I lost my fitter, happier, more productive. You're like, just, I'm not mad. Another All Stats upgrade, but like, come on. You didn't have to do it to him, Thomas. Is it Thomas? You could have just gone with the non-stop bangers. Or did he? Maybe he nerfed his own band's album just to make, you know, make it fair for everybody else. Just so the NME had competition for best album of 1997. I don't know. What is my favorite album of 1997? I don't know. I'd have to go through a rigorous look of, you know, what was made in 1997. We're talking best album of the 1990s. Oh, that's touchy. I haven't thought about it in a while. I used to be very into the music. Archivism is maybe a good word for it. You know, the idea that, you know, classifying and ranking and typing music and, you know, being aware of what's coming out. So there was a time where I had strong opinions. Probably a time when I would have said Slanted and Enchanted by Pavement for sure. But, you know, as time has gone on, that's drifted maybe a little. Still on my driving playlist, though. I mean, Spiderland by Slint is like, I always go back to that. Best album in the 1990s. I don't know, like, Emergency and I by, The Dismemberment Plan is another pretty classic jaunt. I don't know. There's a lot of great rap albums from that. I mean, I probably listened to nothing but Illmatic for like 9 months. Of course, this was not in 1994 when I was 6 years old. I wouldn't have gotten, you know, a lot of the... Even now, I have to look up what the lyrics mean. What does it mean to catch an L while I'm sleeping? I still don't know to this day. I don't want to know. It might be something that might be a narcotics reference that maybe I'm better off not knowing, but I don't know. What about when did Stankonia come out? I don't know. There's a lot of potentially good answers for that one. I wish I had something more definitive, but you know what? I think it's life. It's hard to. I'm here to tell you. You know, the music you liked. I mean, let me rephrase. The music I liked when I was like 15 is still the music I like. But the amount that I like each of it has changed a little bit, you know? Sometimes, you know, kind of one of the interesting parts about being like 30 years old is that, you know, I can routinely hear a song or an album even and be like, man, I haven't heard this in a decade. And, you know, I feel differently about it now than I did back in the day, you know? Like when I was 20, I thought the best part of Titus Andronicus is a more perfect union is when it gets to the guitar break, you know. Then I realized the best part of Titus Andronicus is a more perfect union is when their Abraham Lincoln stand-in reads that speech, you know. The 1,000 nations of Europe and Asia could not by force take a drink from the Ohio River or step foot on the Blue Ridge. If destruction be our lot, then we ourselves must be our architects of downfall. As a nation of free men, we will live forever or die by suicide. Dun 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 dun. Because, I mean, come on. Like Titus Andronicus, you got a great pedigree. Don't get me wrong. There's some of the most powerful words in history, especially, you know, relatively modern history. People will laugh at that, but, you know, the 1800s are kind of modern history. It's not just the old 1980s modern forehead. You got to remember, that was not... When Abraham Lincoln said that stuff, he didn't know that the North was going to win the Civil War. That's a pretty, you know, it's a ballsy, you know, machismo-driven statement. As a nation of free men, we will live forever or die by suicide. Those are powerful words. And the song's still really good. 20-year-old Ryan appreciated the guitar lick more than he appreciated the Abraham Lincoln shout-out. 30-year-old Ryan stands a king, one of the best American presidents of all time, in many of the rankings. I think, in fact, I mean, I believe whenever they do like a presidential ranking thing, Abraham Lincoln usually comes number one. It's usually like him, George Washington, and FDR. Now, I'll admit, I don't have a nuanced view on American history. You know, I know the big points because we get just inundated with, you know, American media and politics and et cetera, in Canada. But, like, it's pretty hard to compete with Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Abraham Lincoln, you know, I don't want to... He's not a perfect human being, I'm sure, but did champion the North to the Civil War victory. You know, if you're a president in less turbulent times, it's going to be real hard to move up on the power rankings there. You might be the best president of all time, but if you live in, or the most talented, let's say, but if you live in a time when, you know, no stuff's going down, it's going to be hard to show off your talents. Let's just take one and bounce. Totally not worth it. Then George Washington. He had the Frodo choice, right? He was entrusted to lead the new country known as America, throw off the royal yoke of England. He succeeds in the American Revolution. All of his fans go, Georgie, we know we've been talking a big game about, like, down with the monarchy and stuff like that, but simultaneously, you rule, dude. How would you like to be the king of America? My man, I don't know what he said, but I could make up a speech. He said, this is off the top of the dome piece. John Adams, you scoundrel, how dare you threaten my legacy by suggesting all that we have labored towards be undone in a single stroke of a pen. To leave the shackles that have held our countrymen, only to willingly forge those shackles for ourselves and those that come after us, would be worse than to labor under the delusion that the shackles are actually wings carrying us to heaven. John Adams, you have offended me. The end. That's, I mean, we could probably cut off that last line. Up until then, I actually thought it was pretty powerful. Little heavy-handed with the metaphor about the wings taking you to heaven, but, I mean, that's improv, baby. He had the strength, like Frodo Baggins, to say, no, I don't want to be the king. President, okay, if you're going to twist my arm. But only for 1 or 2 terms, I can't remember. That's an admirable thing. And then you got to throw, I mean, FDR, obviously. Again, you know, it sounds, I'm not trying to insult the legacy of FDR, who I think, you know, I don't know anything about how these presidents should rank, but, you know, it seems to me like he's deserved his spot up there. But, you know, to steer the nation, just suck that one right up, during the Great Depression and then also the Second World War. That's, you know, I'm just saying that when you're the president, it gives you the opportunity to elevate your station, is all I'm trying to say. You could also probably diminish your station. It's like president rankings are a lot like Marvel movies, okay? Most people put Avengers 1, Infinity War, and Endgame pretty high up in their Marvel Cinematic Universe tier list. And it's, I get it. The other ones that rank high, you know, you get Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and/or Civil War, both of which I think are very good. Original Guardians gets a lot of love. The original Iron Man gets a lot of love, deservedly. But, like, you know, the Avengers movies, that's kind of like the George Washington and Abraham Lincoln of Marvel films, right? They had high stakes. When a movie has higher stakes, you know, it's got more potential. It's like being a power hitter, you know? Your strikeouts look worse. Cough, cough. Age of Ultron. But your home runs are like majestic. So, you know, very few people are going to be like, oh, my favorite Marvel movie? Ant-Man. Yeah, the one where the bald guy from House of Cards, not Kevin Spacey. We don't talk about him anymore. Sells future tech to Hydra. You know, they're more like, oh yeah, the one where the big purple dude comes and, you know, threatens the existence of the whole friggin' universe. Anyway, where was I going with this? I don't know. I'm happy to say all the negative emotions have been purged from my brain regarding the loss we had earlier, and I'm excited to move on here. I'm ready. You know what? Give me one of these. Very helpful. Thank you. You know what? Give me one of these. Ride the hot hand. A lot of tinted rocks in this. Not this time, though. I'm ashamed to say, so there have been, I don't know, something like... Trump is like the 45th American president, something like 45, 46, I don't know. I know if you live in the U.S., you're like, it's 45, how could you not know that? Well, we're not inundated with, you know, the exact ordering all the time. I have heard of him, though. He's on the news now and then. But I don't... well, I can tell you, I bet off the top of my head, without even stressing, I could name 30 American presidents. There have been more American presidents than Canadian prime ministers. But I'll tell you, just in all honesty, despite living in Canada... This is how powerful American cultural influence is. Despite living in Canada... for 29 of my 30 years on the planet, I can probably name 6 to 7 times more American presidents. Well, maybe 4 to 5 times more. Like, I won't even... I'm assuming you trust me so much on that one, you won't ask me to name American presidents. Because, I mean, you want... Okay, yeah, Trump, Obama, W. Bush, Clinton, Bush Sr., Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, Lyndon B. Johnson, Kennedy, Eisenhower. I mean, you could. I might have missed one in there, but I don't think I did. I bet I could just walk you back to 1900 without missing too many beats there. In Canada, I'm like, okay, you got Justin Trudeau. Before that was Stephen Harper. Before that was Paul Martin. Before that was Jean Chrétien. Before Jean Chrétien, there was a very brief period where Kim Campbell was the prime minister. Now it gets a little fuzzy. I believe before Kim Campbell, we'll just suck it up. Before Kim Campbell, you had Brian Mulroney, most famous for fathering Canada's Ryan Seacrest. Ben Mulroney. Before Brian Mulroney, now you get tricky. Because you got, there's Pierre Trudeau was up definitely in there. And then Joe Clark had a little stint in the middle at one point. And then, once you get past that, I'm like, okay. You got Diefenbaker, Wilfrid Laurier, Robert Borden, Mackenzie King, Sir John A. Macdonald, and that's all I got. That's like 10 Canadian prime ministers. There's like literally 150 years of Canadian prime ministers where I could not tell you. Well, that's not true because the country just turned 150. But there's at least like a 40 to 50 year period in Canada's short history where I could not tell you who was running the ship. That's not true in America. I mean, it gets a little fuzzy. You know, the early presidents, like up to Van Buren, not a problem. But post Van Buren, I guess, I can't remember. You get a little fuzzy after a while, and then, you know. Anyway, the point is, I think, without a doubt, I know more about American history than I know about Canadian history. But then when I was talking about, about American history with Sinvicta in a GeoGuessr episode. And I asked what fort was the site of the battle of the first battle of the Civil War, I should say. Sinvicta told me it was not Fort Sumter, which I am very aware that it was, because it's one of the most common Jeopardy questions of all time. So maybe I should not feel bad about knowing more American history than Canadian history, because I think I also know more American history than a lot of Americans. So I'll just take it, I'll take the good with the bad. To be fair, there is also more American history than Canadian history. At least since they've become countries. You know, America's got like a 100-year head start on us. And they did more with the time. For better and for worse. Let me out, thank you. But like, I feel like the mythos of American history is, you know, is even more ingrained in. I don't know if you can relate to this, by the way, if you're like European, for example. So I feel like in Europe, I mean, it's so rich with recorded history. You know, Western history is very, very strange, or you know, North American history, let's say, is very, very strange, because you're like, well, nothing at all happened until around the year 1600, and then something, everybody was friendly, they gave us furs, we gave them, and before you know it, here we are at the Pacific Ocean, you know? Still feel like, our history courses in North America could do a much better job about educating us about, you know, indigenous history, and moreover, you know, maybe it's probably better now. I didn't grow up in an era where it was like, oh, you know, was the Family Guy joke when they're in Germany? They're like, everybody was on vacation. It wasn't really like that, but, you know, we watched like a 30-minute documentary about residential schools. Oh, what have I done? And then our teacher was like, you know, any questions? I have no idea what's happening here. So I guess I'll just take this. I've never seen that effect before. Okay. Is it because I have did I suck up undefined or something? I wouldn't know, because I stopped using undefined for any purpose once they took out chest looping for reasons that elude me to this day. But I feel like in Europe, you're kind of... Don't take us the wrong way. You're a little spoiled when it comes to history. You know? You got... Especially, like... I mean, you have... Rome, sure. It's a long time ago, but it's not that long ago in the whole scheme of things. And Roman history covers a lot of, like, at least mainland Western Europe. And North Africa, for that matter. And then, you know, you go even further back, you still got Greece. And this is not even to mention, you know, the whole medieval era, you know, the Renaissance, etc., etc. Y'all had a war, went on for 100 years. That's absurd. It was a 100-year-long war. You can only have a 100-year-long war in an era where the most powerful weapon and the most feared piece of technology is a large bow. Nowadays, you know, I'm not saying you can't have a war that's protracted. Let's be honest, I know essentially nothing about combat. But I have played Total War. But I feel like, you know, if your enemy had a technological superiority over you in the 1300s, this is kind of a different sense of dread, right? You know, we live in the nuclear era. You know, if you're at conflict with another nuclear power, you're like, at any moment, the bombs could start falling, irradiating our cities. I'm not trying to make light of the atrocities that inevitably must have occurred during these wars. But, you know, how do you feel about it in the 1300s? At any moment, 700 to 1200 Welsh longbowmen could appear at the top of this hill. I'm not saying it wouldn't be scary. I mean, human beings haven't changed in that amount of time. It's not like a Welsh longbowman wouldn't, you know, put a bow through my face or anything like that. I'm just, you know, it's different now. Maybe it's better now, because you're like, well, you know, maybe you'd rather get vaporized instantly than get hit with the, you know, high-speed arrow to your torso or something. I mean, with like, this is a little... I didn't mean to go into such detail. I think the George Washington speech got me riled up. I really felt like I was George. I'm a method actor. I replaced all my teeth with dentures that were definitely wooden. Uh-huh. I was watching The Bucket List last night. I don't watch these movies actively. They just happen to be on the movie channel while I'm grinding out Tetris 99 wins. And I was like, man, this movie sucks. It's really bad. But then I had one great scene, I thought. And I was like, that's pretty smart for a movie. You know, it's a better joke than I would expect in a movie that's targeting, you know, this particular audience. But anyway, boomers. Morgan Freeman is talking about, you know, like, one of the Great Pyramids of Giza. And he goes, you know, it took 20,000 volunteers laboring for 10 years to make this. And then they talk for a little bit to bury the, you know, to get ready for the callback coming later. And then Jack Nicholson goes, cool story. I don't know if I buy the volunteers part, though. And Morgan Freeman is just absolutely stunned. I was like, you know what, movie? You got one genuine chuckle out of me. I didn't expect The Bucket List to be even 1% woke. But there it is. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Upset a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, though, thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time. See ya!